Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with me.
And me.
And today we're going deep into the world of cryptocurrency, but with a twist.
Yeah, instead of reading through, articles and reports,
Right.
we're going to be listening in on one very opinionated crypto commentator.
Yeah, it's like we're eavesdropping on a conversation.
Yes.
There's some really interesting insights.
It is really interesting because he's not just looking at the market.
Right.
He's connecting it to what's going on in the world.
Yes.
So politics, social trends, global events, it's a really different way of looking at things.
Yeah, and he doesn't hold back in his opinions either.
No, he definitely does not.
So one of his biggest claims right out of the gate is that Bitcoin hasn't hit that $100,000 mark because of President Biden.
Interesting.
He specifically points to Biden's decisions around the Ukraine conflict and how authorizing U.S. weapons to be used in a way that could escalate things with Russia has really made investors nervous.
And so that's where it gets even more interesting.
Yeah.
Because he goes on to suggest that politicians, particularly those with connections to arms and ammunition companies, might actually benefit from escalating conflicts.
Yeah.
And he points to, recent stock surges in companies like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, as potential evidence.
So he's saying global instability might actually be good for certain sectors.
Certain sectors, yeah.
While potentially, hurting Bitcoin's growth. Because you've got how much influence do these global events really have on what's supposed to be this decentralized system?
Yeah, it really challenges the idea that crypto is just operating in its own little bubble.
Right.
Completely separate from everything else going on.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that while Bitcoin's lagging behind, the overall crypto market is actually growing, which seems kind of counterintuitive.
Yes, he attributes this growth to what he calls the altcoin casino, which is all the activity happening with altcoins, meme coins,
and
NFTs, all that stuff.
And he also mentioned that stablecoin volume is unusually high.
Oh, interesting.
Which I think is something to watch.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Because stablecoins are basically cryptocurrencies that are designed to hold a stable value.
Right.
Often pegged to the US dollar, so their increased volume might suggest that investors are moving away from more volatile assets.
Yeah, makes sense.
Seeking stability.
Yeah, looking for safer ground.
Exactly.
And speaking of things holding strong, NFTs are still going strong.
Yes.
Despite a slight dip from the previous week, Ethereum is still leading the pack, followed by Bitcoin and Solana.
What I found fascinating was that while Ethereum saw a 25.9% decrease in sales volume and Bitcoin saw a 29% decrease, Solana only saw a 9% drop.
Wow.
And it actually saw a 51% increase in the number of buyers.
Oh, wow. So even though overall sales might be down, there's clearly still a ton of interest in NFTs.
Yeah, a lot of activity.
Especially on these alternative blockchains.
Yeah, like Solana.
Like everybody's looking for the next big thing.
The next Ethereum.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, one platform that's hoping to maybe dethrone Ethereum, or at least that's what some people are saying, is the Sui network.
Right.
But they hit a bit of a snag recently.
Yeah, they had their first major outage.
Yeah.
Which halted Blab production for 2 hours.
2 hours, which, not great when you're trying to build trust and reliability.
Yeah, not exactly the best luck.
Especially because, Solana's had its own outages in the past.
Right.
But what was interesting is that Sui recovered a lot faster.
Oh, okay.
Which maybe suggests that they're learning from, Solana's mistakes.
Points for a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about regulation.
Okay.
The UK is working on a comprehensive framework for the crypto industry.
Oh, wow.
They're aiming to have it in place by early next year. And this would cover everything from stablecoins to staking services.
Wow, that's a big step.
It is a big step.
Because it could provide some much needed clarity, for businesses and investors operating in the UK.
Yeah.
But of course, it remains to be seen how these regulations will actually be implemented.
Right.
And what the impact will be.
Right, what the real world impact will be.
Exactly.
Our commentator seems a little bit skeptical about the timeline, though.
Really?
He's suggesting there might be some delays.
Okay.
Because of the Labour government's stance on crypto.
Yeah, it's interesting how different governments around the world are taking such different approaches.
Yeah.
To regulating crypto.
Yeah, some are embracing it and some are super cautious.
Very wary.
Okay, so let's hop over to Dubai for a second.
Okay.
Because there's a couple interesting developments there.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
So first we have a company called Mantra.
Okay.
They're partnering with Pies to tokenize electric motorcycles for logistics and delivery services in the UAE.
Interesting. So they're basically putting these vehicles on the blockchain.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
This is highlighting that growing trend of tokenizing real-world assets.
Yes.
And by representing these motorcycles as digital tokens,
Right.
they can be traded and managed so much more efficiently.
Yeah.
Potentially streamlining logistics and supply chains.
It all sounds very futuristic.
It does.
But our commentator seems a little skeptical about this too.
Really?
He's questioning whether the Mantra chain is truly open and expressing some concerns about, real-world asset tokenization on what he calls a permissioned blockchain.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Tokenizing physical assets raises all sorts of questions.
Yeah.
About ownership,
right,
transferability, regulatory compliance.
How you prevent fraud.
Exactly. How do you ensure the security of these tokens? It's complicated.
It is.
So as this technology evolves,
yes,
we need to think carefully about all these issues.
Yeah, it's like for every exciting development,
there's
also a potential pitfall.
There are concerns. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is just one example of that.
Yeah.
It's a new space. There's a lot we don't know yet.
Right.
That's part of what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
But it also means we need to be thinking critically and doing our own research.
Absolutely.
Before jumping into anything.
Words to live by.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and speaking of security, our next story takes us to Black Hat, Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow.
Where cybersecurity company Help AG is unveiling some pretty cutting-edge AI-driven solutions.
So they're using AI to, beef up cybersecurity.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Right.
What exactly are they focusing on?
Well, their main emphasis is on advanced threat detection and something called post-quantum readiness solutions.
Post-quantum readiness solutions.
Yeah. So basically, they're trying to stay ahead of the curve, anticipating future threats.
Okay.
Especially as, technologies like quantum computing become more prevalent.
Makes sense, trying to future-proof cybersecurity.
Exactly.
It's interesting to see this happening in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it really highlights how cybersecurity is a global concern.
It is, yeah.
And how different regions are taking the lead in developing new solutions.
Yeah.
Now, remember that listener question about Solana?
Yeah.
And whether it could actually challenge Ethereum's dominance in the NFT space.
Right. Could it dethrone Ethereum?
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, our commentator had some thoughts on that.
Okay, what did he say?
Well, he seemed to acknowledge Solana's strengths,
Yeah.
Especially its speed and low transaction costs.
Right. Which are definitely attractive features.
Especially for newer users.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he believes Ethereum still has a significant edge.
Okay, why is that?
Well, it comes down to a few key factors.
Okay.
First, there's the established ecosystem.
Uh-huh.
Ethereum's been around for a while now.
Right.
And it has this vast network of developers, applications, users.
Right, like the OG.
It is.
The original.
Yeah. It's like the difference between a bustling city and a newly built town.
Right.
The city has everything you need, even if it's a bit more crowded and expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas the town is still under construction.
And then there's the issue of trust.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Ethereum has built a reputation for reliability and security.
Right. Which is super important when you're talking about valuable assets.
It is crucial.
Like NFTs.
Absolutely. And institutional investors are much more likely to trust a platform with a proven track record.
They're not going to gamble on some new, unproven thing.
Exactly.
He even brought up some of the so-called Ethereum killers from the past.
Oh, yeah.
Like EOs.
Yeah, Cardano.
Which ultimately failed to live up to the hype.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that while new blockchains emerge all the time, very few actually achieve the same level of adoption and success.
Has Ethereum.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the technology.
No, it's about building a community.
Right.
Establishing trust. Creating a sustainable ecosystem.
It's about the whole package.
It is.
So Solana might be a contender, but it still has a lot to prove.
Yeah, a long way to go.
And as we've seen, the crypto world is constantly changing.
It is ever evolving.
What's hot today might be old news tomorrow.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to stay informed. Be critical of bold claims.
Right.
Do your research before jumping into any investments.
Always good advice.
Yeah.
Speaking of bold claims.
Oh.
This commentator had some pretty strong opinions.
Oh, here we go.
About the differences between President Trump and President Biden.
Okay.
Particularly when it comes to their approach to foreign policy and global conflict.
So this is where his personal views really come into play.
Yeah.
He portrays Trump as this peacemaker,
Okay.
focused on diplomacy and economic solutions.
Interesting.
While painting Biden as much more interventionist.
Okay.
Someone who's more likely to escalate military involvement.
So, for example, he highlighted Trump's efforts to withdraw troops from Afghanistan and Iraq, his direct negotiations with leaders like Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
The Abraham Accords that normalized relations between Israel and some Arab countries.
Yeah, a lot of diplomatic efforts.
He contrasts that with, Biden's actions in Ukraine.
Yeah.
His support for NATO expansion.
Yeah.
His overall approach to foreign policy. And he argues that these actions have contributed to global instability.
It's a pretty stark contrast.
It is.
He's painting.
He even went as far as to suggest that Biden and the Democrats are intentionally prolonging conflicts for financial gain, implying that some politicians might profit from war through investments in defense companies.
That's a pretty serious allegation.
It is, yeah.
But it's important to remember that these are just his interpretations, heavily influenced by his own political beliefs.
Of course.
As listeners, it's crucial to recognize this bias and form our own informed opinions.
Don't just take his word for it.
Exactly.
He then pivoted back to the economy and Bitcoin specifically, attributing the recent surge in Bitcoin's price to Trump's re-election.
Interesting.
He sees this as a sign of returning global stability and confidence in the market.
So Trump equals good for Bitcoin.
According to him.
Yes.
Got it. He even highlighted Trump's stated intention to replace Gary Gensler.
Oh, yeah, the current SEC chairman.
The current chairman of the SEC with someone who's more crypto-friendly.
So potentially creating a more favorable regulatory environment.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So his overall narrative seems to be Trump equals peace and prosperity, leading to a booming Bitcoin market, while Biden represents war and economic turmoil, hindering Bitcoin's growth.
It's definitely a simplified view of a complex situation.
It is, yeah.
The global economy and the crypto market are influenced by so many factors.
Right, it's not just one person.
Exactly. Attributing everything to one political figure or party is a vast oversimplification.
That being said, it is interesting to consider how different political ideologies and leadership styles might impact the world of cryptocurrency.
It's a valid question, and one that deserves further exploration.
Absolutely.
We need to look beyond partisan talking points and engage in more nuanced discussions about the interplay between politics, economics, and emerging technologies like crypto.
It's all connected.
It is.
He wrapped up his analysis by encouraging listeners to do their own research.
Good advice.
And share their thoughts.
Yeah.
He really emphasized the importance of being informed and actively engaged in the political process, especially when it comes to the future of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, this highlights the importance of critical thinking and civic engagement.
Absolutely.
You can't just passively accept the information we're given.
Right. We need to question, analyze,
and form our own conclusions.
Exactly.
Be active participants.
Now, before we wrap up, he shared a rather interesting personal anecdote.
Oh, really?
That ties back to our earlier conversation about AI.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
This is where he gets into his experiment with Notebook LM.
Right, Google's AI note-taking tool.
Yeah, he's been uploading the audio of his show into this tool.
Okay.
And he claims that it tends to downplay or even omit any negative statements about President Biden.
That is interesting.
Yeah, while he's careful not to accuse Google of intentionally programming bias into their AI, he does find this pattern rather peculiar.
I mean, it is a little strange.
Especially since he claims the AI accurately reflects any positive statements about President Trump.
Oh, so it's like the AI is filtering the information through a particular lens.
It seems that way.
This goes back to our earlier discussion about potential biases in AI.
Yeah, even if it's not intentional.
Right.
The data that these systems are trained on can influence their output.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if the AI was primarily trained on data sets that were more favorable towards Biden, it might unintentionally reflect that in how it summarizes or transcribes information.
So it's not necessarily malicious?
No, not necessarily.
But it's still something to be aware of.
Definitely, we need to be mindful of these potential biases.
Yeah, and as AI becomes more integrated into our lives, it's crucial to have these conversations.
It is.
About ethics, transparency, accountability.
Absolutely. We need to ensure that these technologies are developed and used responsibly with a focus on fairness, accuracy, inclusivity.
It's a lot to think about,
It is.
but it's important stuff.
It is. These are conversations we need to be having.
Yeah, it really makes you think about all the information we're bombarded with every day and how it's being, shaped and filtered, sometimes in ways we don't even realize.
It's a reminder to be a more critical consumer of information.
Absolutely, especially in this digital age.
Especially now, with algorithms and AI playing such a big role.
We can't just blindly trust everything we see and hear.
Right, we have to question things.
Yeah, look at different perspectives.
And form our own informed opinions.
Exactly, and that's what we encourage you to do after this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored some pretty fascinating and complex topics today. From the world of cryptocurrency to geopolitics and AI.
It's all connected.
It really is. And now it's your turn to reflect on what you've heard.
That's right.
So what resonated with you?
Yeah, what challenged your assumptions?
What questions do you still have?
This is where the real learning happens.
Yeah.
When you take this information and apply it to your own understanding of the world.
So don't be afraid to dig a little deeper. Do your own research.
Absolutely.
Talk to other people about this stuff.
Have those conversations. Yeah.
Because knowledge is powerful.
It is.
But it's even more powerful when it's shared and debated.
Exactly. So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep those conversations going.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks.
That's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.
Stay curious out there.